by England yesterday. Carl Ferns makes his first Premiership start. We'll have full match commentary from Edgeley Park right here on BBC Radio Manchester from 7 o'clock tomorrow evening. And having completed a 2-year drugs ban, former Wigan and Widnes back row forward David Allen is joining Oldham. The 23-year-old who tested positive for use of a recreational drug in 2006 has signed a 1-year deal for the Ruffians.
BBC Radio Manchester, satellite weather with Diane Oxford.
Well, the rain is just starting to push in now from the west, and as it moves across the region from time to time, some of it will end up being fairly heavy. It's a really disappointing day following on the heels of yesterday. We're going to be stuck with this band of rain pretty much all the way through daylight hours. The breeze, it's not terribly strong, and the good news is it is from a great direction for us, so it is a mild day. Top temperature, 12 Celsius.
Have lunch with Allan Beswick.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Hiya. You all right? Good-o. Yeah, we like it when you're well. I like it when I'm well, but then I always am, so it gets a bit tedious. Yeah, telephone number, if you wish to join us, is the usual one of 0161 228 2255. The email address, again, the usual one, radiomanchester@bbc.co.uk. And the text number, 07786 206 951. And you can, of course, pick a subject and waffle about it, if you like. Or even, this will be startling, even talk cleverly about it. I don't mind. I can cope with either. Because I just listen. It's easy. So you're welcome to do that. And, I mean, I've never been unemployed. I've not. Since leaving school, even when I got the sack from my first job, I got another job fairly, it's too long to tell, fairly quickly thereafter. It's my generation, I think. I don't think it's how clever I've done. I think it just turns out that I've been lucky. I've never, ever been unemployed. And now I never will be, because at 60, if they dump you, you say, I've retired, don't you? Yeah, until somebody comes along and offers you a job, and then you're out of retirement. But no, so I'm never going to be unemployed. Now, I might have beggar all to do, but come on, I only work 2 hours a day. It won't be much of a change. But what's unemployment like? We had, back in the 70s and early 80s, varying figures, depending on which political party at the time you believed. But unemployment in some people's calculations got up to 3 million. A phenomenal number of people, 3 million. It's being suggested that this time unemployment will be the status quo for 2 million. That's what they're suggesting. Now, they're also suggesting that it's likely to be short-term. By that I mean not a decade. Short-term. They expect the economy to return to its thriving self, in that old bumpy, uppy, downy thing, by about 2010. But in that time, some 2 million people will be without work. What's that like? What's it like to arrive into work and be told, well, as is happening to, 10,000 BT workers. Now, they were saying in their press release that about 7,000 of those will be natural wastage. People reaching retirement age, people leaving for other jobs, people becoming sick, even dying. All those things happen. So they'll lose about 7,000, they say, through natural wastage. But that means 3,000 are going to actually be invited to give up their jobs, because they've not yet had to make people redundant. I remember last time when BT was first privatised, within 12 months they'd made 25,000 people redundant. They'd got rid of 25,000 people. And as I recall, and maybe you can tell me differently, as I recall, they didn't compulsorily make anybody redundant. In other words, they were all people who were going anyway, as it were, or chose to go with a wad in their back pocket. But what's life like unemployed? Retired, I can see that. I can see the tedium of it for some, and I can see that others are retired and say, so many people say this to you, I don't know how the hell I found time to go to work, all the things I'm doing. I understand that. But that's forever, that's it. You've retired, your working life is over and your life of leisure, as it were, begins, although you probably end up looking after your grandkids. But what's life like for the unemployed? You've no money. You've nothing to do all day. You've got people who people like Daily Mail reporters sneering at you for being work shy, for being the... Exactly, for being... I mean, that's what they say. No, it's not their fault. It's not the staff's fault that 10,000 people are going to be sacked by BT. It's not their fault. You know, the people who come round and mend your telephone or sit in the call centre or whatever, they've done nothing wrong. They've done nothing wrong at all. I don't know who's got it wrong, but 10,000 of them are going to be staring down the barrel of unemployment. What's life like on the dole? I have absolutely no idea. You tell me. 0161 228 2255. And what do you think of companies? BT have over the years made millions and millions and millions, much of which has been given to their shareholders. There you are, here's some money for you, don't you worry. Smart, there's your money. But now that they need money, now they need money to pay their staff, they don't go back to the shareholders and give it to us. No, they say, it's all right. We'll just get rid of people.
Your Sunday Morning Lion with Mike Shaft.
Let's start at the beginning. Is this the end of racism in America?
Well, it's not going to be the end of racism in America, but it is a moment, isn't it? It's a Kennedy moment. It's a Martin Luther King moment. I think it's going to re-energize the United States.
Mike Shaft.
Give me an idea what it's like when you go out into battle.
Men, women, all colours, bond firstly to form a second family. You go into battle to make sure that your friend, your mucker, you're bringing him back.
Manchester's faith, spirit, and life's difficult questions with Mike Shaft.
Let's not dwell on what I think.
Sunday morning from 7 on BBC Radio Manchester.
A very good day to you. How are you? Are you all right? Gideon's for the chop, apparently. He's one losing it. No, he is. According to the paper. Now, don't be looking at me. I'm not mocking. But apparently, he's not done as well as he might have done. And there's talk of George Osborne losing his job. Now, he'll still be the MP for Tatton, obviously, but he won't be the Shadow Chancellor. If what I've read is should we say, to be believed. Now, you can never tell, can you? Because there's always people mixing it for you when you're in that. But that's what I've read, that it's bye-bye Georgie, according to the Daily Mirror. And they must know, mustn't they? Panicking Tories want Shadow Chancellor George Osborne sacked as their lead in the polls continues to shrink. He's lost the backing of both moderates and right-wingers in the party, with Tory MPs now openly discussing possible replacements for one of leader David Cameron's closest allies. One moaned, George was a good chancellor for the good times, but now he's lost his credibility. You've got to have someone who looks as though they can share the concerns of people. So, multi-millionaire Osborne, caught up in a sleaze row after discussing donations with a Russian billionaire, is thought to be the first in line for the chop in a reshuffle predicted to happen within 3 weeks. Well, there you are. That's what they're saying. They haven't a clue, but that's what they're saying. And I just thought you'd like to know, because it's one of ours. And then another one of ours, more or less, Dendover, he's just lost the party whip. Because in Europe they reckon he's had £500,000 and give it to his family. But he does say that the work was done, which is nice, isn't it? 0161 228 2255. Austin in Warrington. Hiya, Austin.
Good morning, Alan. How are you?
I'm very well. What can we do for you?
I go back to listening to Red Road Radio with you many, many years ago, so that tells you how long I've been listening to you.
Oh, dear. Anyway, what can we do for you today?
Right, I've been very lucky that I have worked all my life, but I'm not ringing about that. What I'm ringing about is this tragic young girl in Haringey, and why are we not seeing mass resignations from Haringey Council, the Social Council, or the Social Services, because the whole affair, to me, is an absolute, utter disgrace. Now, they had the lady on yesterday, the boss of the social services, who came across to me as very arrogant, unfeeling. She probably isn't, but that's the impression I got.
Well, what purpose would mass resignation serve?
Do you not think, then, it would teach a lesson to other social-type people who work within these communities? Because this is happening a lot of times, you know. This is just the tip of an iceberg.
Well, you say it's the tip of an iceberg. I'm sure you're not implying that there are dozens of kids a week dying and we're never being told. That's not going to happen. So what do you mean by tip of the iceberg?
Well, I think there's a lot of kids getting badly treated, not fed to the standards maybe they should be fed to. If you walk around some of the poorer parts of Warrington or Manchester, and me and my wife travel a lot because luckily we're both retired now. I've seen kids being scruffed around the back of the neck and belted, and in fact one day I was on the motorway and there was a car passing me, and the woman in the passenger seat was leaning over the back seats and she was battering these kids, and if I could have stopped them I would have done something about it. But
well, to be fair on this, there's an awful lot of people ringing this programme who say there's not enough slapping of children going on, quite frankly, when they misbehave. But answer me this. You've just said that there are all these, probably, and I'm not arguing with you, and I think you're bob on, tens of thousands of kids throughout the country who are being not brought up as well as they might be, should we say, and in some cases abused physically, mentally, abused by circumstance and the like. Do you think social service departments up and down the country make it better for those kids, or worse, generally?
I would guess in lots and lots of cases, the treatment handed out by social services, it must be marvellous. But there seems to be, for some unknown reason, serious lapses in various parts of the community. Like this woman, the lady from Haringey, was saying that her staff were of the very highest calibre. They didn't need a review from the government or whoever, and they'd all done a perfectly adequate job, and yet this child has been seen, I believe, 60 times in its short life. What the hell is going on?
What do you think should have gone on? What do you think the social services... Now, I know you've not read the report, neither have I, mate, but what do you think the social services could have done in that case, should have done in that case, that they didn't do?
I would have thought that maybe the first time the child was presented at whatever hospital it was taken, and the doctor or whoever examines the child and he says, makes a decision. Well, and I know these people are crafty, so I believe, I don't know, but like say it's a broken rib or a cigarette burn. Now he should immediately pick the phone up. Right, get down here, I want this sorted. Right away, no messing. Let's have some common sense.
Who should respond to that?
Instantly.
Yeah, no, you've told me how quickly. Who? Who does the doctor phone?
Somebody from social services.
Right, well...
Or the police.
All of that has happened. Amongst those people, amongst those 60 visits were medical professionals, the police and the social services.
Then I am at a loss to explain.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? Perhaps we're all at a loss.
That's not an excuse, is it?
Well, no, it isn't. But in the end, if you say... Because had you said to me, well, what should have happened was the kid should have been taken into care... Well, I'm not altogether sure that a kid taken into care gets a better life than one that isn't.
No, that's
and then you've got the other thing. Well, OK, there are still going to be cases that we can't get to the bottom of, and you're going to end up, if you take the worst 5% of cases, and there are thousands of them, if you take the worst 5% of cases into care, in they go to care. What about the next 5%?
Well, you're going in, you're digging and digging into an endless barrel of worms, then, aren't you?
Exactly, you're right. You and me can sit here and criticise the social workers, but we don't know what they've done. Why don't we look at it another way and say, do you know what? These social workers have kept this kid alive for 17 months.
No, I don't agree with that.
No, I don't agree or disagree, but it's another way of looking at it. It's easy to blame the social workers. In truth, the only people to blame are the parents.
Absolutely.
And they're possibly not to blame because of their own physical and personal inadequacies.
Well, I agree with that.
The parent, the mother, was 17 years of age, for God's sake.
I believe so, and I believe Cameron brought that up in Parliament yesterday and said she was a totally inadequate person have a child.
Yeah, but I don't know how we stop that, because
No, I don't.
human nature, if you believe in that, God, if you believe in that, says it's all right. You can start having babies from about 11.
That's right, and we have the worst record in Europe for single mothers with babies?
Well, we certainly have the highest number of children born out of wedlock, but not every child born out of wedlock is born out of, or is born into extenuating circumstances.
Right.
Often it's people who've chosen to not get married, and as we are a less and less religious society compared to some of our European neighbours, we don't bother with all that white frock stuff, and they just live over the brush.
But they seem to encourage young kids, don't they, to have babies these days by saying, you know, if you get pregnant, we'll fix you up with a nice little council flat somewhere, we'll give you a few bob, here, and you can get a better lifestyle.
I'll ask you this question. What do you think we should say to single parents? If you, young lady, get pregnant, we're going to beat you up every morning and hang you upside down and beat the soles of your feet with sticks?
No, I think...
We have to look after them, don't we?
Of course we have to look after them.
I don't know how we can say anything else.
And I'm sure there must be a better way of doing what we're doing.
There's always a better way, whatever we're doing, Austin. Good on you, mate.
Anyway, lovely to talk to you.
And you, sir. 0161 228 2255. We're back talking about Baby P. I think it is almost inevitable that it was such a shocking case. I don't know what the solution is. A cabinet minister's criticising the authorities over the death of Baby P, saying there were up to 60 missed opportunities to save the life of the 17-month-old boy. The government's ordered an independent review into child protection services in the London borough of Haringey after the baby's mother and two men were convicted of causing or allowing the death of the child. The leader of the Commons, Harriet Harman, told MPs that it was a terrible, tragic death in horrible circumstances. What she didn't say is, and we take our share of the blame and we're going to double the resources of social services. But then the woman's not an idiot. It's just gone 12 on BBC Radio Manchester. News headlines. Anna Dawson.
2 children killed at their home in Cheetham Hill have been named as 3-month-old Delanio and 2-year-old Romario Mullins Sewell. It's reported the boys were stabbed to death, although that's not been confirmed. A 21-year-old woman who's being questioned on suspicion of murder has also been sectioned under the Mental Health Act. Friends Provident won't comment on claims up to 280 jobs are going at the company in Manchester. The insurer and pension provider is closing one of its main buildings in the city and transferring staff and resources over the next year. And BT shedding 10,000 jobs. Agency workers and subcontractors will be affected. Manchester's weather dull and rainy today, highs of 12 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester 2020 traffic.
Well, it's fairly foggy around the M62 at the moment, at junction 22 Rushworth Moor. Visibility really is badly reduced in places. The fog's quite thick, but traffic seems to be coping fairly well. And I'm afraid we're still seeing severe delays on the Metro link between GMX and Altrincham because of problems with an earlier broken down tram in the Altrincham area. So some services are subject to delay. Now, don't forget, if of course you can update me further, call in on 0161 244 4951. I'm Cara Banks.
Decongesting Manchester, one car at a time. 2020 traffic.
BBC Radio Manchester.
0161 228 2255. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk. Text number, of course, is 07786 206 951. And we have a text from... Steve in St Helens. A few weeks ago, says Steve, I told you about the taxi driver who said he could smoke in his cab when he liked, as he owned the cab. It's now been resolved. My partner Susan and I received an apology from the company and a voucher for £20 to use in their cabs. So thank you, Alan, for your advice at the time. The taxi driver cannot smoke in his cab, whether he's got passengers in it or not. It is illegal. Colin in Worsley. Hiya.
Hi, good afternoon, Alan.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, just on the child abuse case, we're out trying to say, how do we try and solve the problems about the abuse on children? Surely if a child goes into hospital like this child has over with 60, injuries or some, or 60 times, why don't they, before that gets to that sort of state, why don't they give the parents a polygraph test to tell whether they're saying that they haven't abused the child? Seems quite a simple solution, really, to find out whether they're telling the truth or not?
It would be a simple solution if it worked, but polygraphs are not that reliable, to be honest. And...
well, they're pretty low. They reckon about 95%, and if you actually polygraph both the parents as opposed to one, and you get that a positive off both parents, so surely the percentage goes up slightly higher than the 95%, because you're asking both parents.
Well, yes, but you fall into all sorts of difficulties, and... Go on.
Yeah, but obviously there's a life at stake. So
yeah, there is a life at stake, but as you say, you've got a 5% chance of getting it right, a 95% chance of getting it right. That means you've got a 5% chance of getting it wrong.
Yeah, that's fine.
Do you know how many children the social services in Haringey are looking after at any given moment?
Oh yeah. Well,
how many do you think?
Yeah, I suppose most probably hundreds, but when it gets to the
bear with me. Bear with me.
Okay, yeah.
Hundreds. Okay, hundreds. Now all they've got wrong is one that's lost his life.
Yes.
So that's less than 1%.
That's right.
Less than 1% they've got wrong. Okay.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Well, I know you don't have a problem with the statistics.
The problem I have is when somebody goes they've been seen 60 times, obviously after 20 times, or after there must be a time when you say, well, hold on, let's just do a polygraph test just to see what the stories the parents are giving us. Because surely after 60 times, it seems a lot, not just to do a simple
Colin,
test.
you see, when we say things, like when the media say, like, the child was visited 60 times, let me tell you that if it took a year, is once a week.
Yeah.
Once a week.
Yeah.
It's not some absolutely horrible dramatic number. It sounds like a horrible dramatic number, but it's a visit a week. One, 20-minute visit a week. Yeah, and in that 20 minutes, questions arise, and the social worker has the obligation to decide what is the best thing at that point. Is the best thing to start the wheels in motion to take the kid into care, or is the best thing to try to allow the child to remain with the family, which in the overwhelming majority of cases, a lot more than 95 by the way, is the best course of action?
Yeah, that's fine, Alan, but you're saying once a week. So all right, so once a week's okay, but if you end up like being 4 times in the month, and you think, well, hold on, seems a bit excessive if child's being injured 4 times in a month. Surely then the bell should start ringing and say there's something not quite right here. That's all. The only thing is, I thought, well, just give them a polygraph test, all right. So, and then you can try and assess something then, whether you think the parents are telling the truth or whether it's just a general act, just an everyday occurrence. The child gets, if he's saying it's only once a month, but that works out if it once a week, but over a year that'd be 52 injuries in a year, and even 4 times in a month or once a month. I mean, I have a grandchild, and he's so boisterous and everything, but he doesn't get injured like that, where he's actually suffering with things, and he's got to go to the doctor or go to the hospital to see the state of the injuries that the child's got.
The great problem we have here is you, like me and many others, are attempting to correct something that went wrong. And we think if we come up with a policy that if we retrospectively apply to this case, we won't get it wrong, that means we won't get others wrong. We will.
Oh, no, nothing's perfect in life, Alan. I know even doing a polygraph doesn't mean to say it's going to stop it, but it could maybe reduce it by 50%. And if you could reduce that by 50%,
let me offer you this then, and we're going to have a last go at trying to show the flaw in the polygraph.
Okay.
I don't know how long it takes to do a polygraph, but I know that you can't do it in the person's home.
No.
You've got to take them away from there.
Yeah. Well, you'd have to take the child to the hospital, wouldn't you? Which is the same sort of scenario.
There are three adults involved here.
Yeah.
So, the social worker thinks, hang on a minute, I'm not sure whether I believe these or not. So, we're going to make them have a polygraph test. Now, the time involved in arranging that will be phenomenal. You've got to get 3 people to the premises where the polygraph tests are doing. You've got to provide them with a lawyer. You've got to provide them with all sorts of things. But let us just say, they say, yeah, we're perfectly happy to take the test, and along we come. The time the social worker will spend doing that he or she will not be visiting the next family. And that next family may well kill their kid. Do you still think it's a good policy? No answer. 0161 228 2255. Unfortunately, we have a very difficult situation, says Paul in West Horton. I've heard the callers say that any child with a bruise and the parents should be interrogated. Any child without bruises is unusual. There'll be a huge amount of detention space needed for the innocent parents then. I have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old. It is rare that they are totally bruise-free. Can I explain any of them? Can I, heck? It really is a very fine line between intrusion too early and intrusion too late. Incorrectly taking children into care can be devastating. Wasn't there a case in the last couple of years where the father was eventually exonerated, but after the children had actually been sent out for adoption? Weren't there incidents not too far from us where the trigger was pulled too early in Rochdale? Then we see comments about social workers doing admin 80% of the time. If there are any significant changes as a result of this, I expect that figure to go up to, 90%, as I suspect much of the paperwork to be protection of social workers, documenting what they have done, why it was done, why the child is at risk, why it's still with the parents, and we will be, and when it will be looked at next. As for the mum versus graduates, a mum, you remember yesterday somebody said we want fewer graduates and more mums. As for mums versus graduates, a mum may be able to spot abuse, but have a gut feeling or saying there's something about the way the dad looked at me is not something that can be used in court, either to justify why action was taken or not taken. It may be enough to justify taking a closer look, but in this day and age, we have to be able to justify, verify, defend any action or otherwise. And everybody who says what we need are more mums and fewer graduates, just remember it was a mum that was involved in the death of the child. Police are giving more details about the deaths of a 3-month-old baby, and hopefully, this is in Manchester, hopefully we'll be able to bring you that a little later. We're expecting it within the next, I think, 5 to 10 minutes. Alan, England's Rugby League World Champion isn't going very well. World Cup campaign isn't going very well, is it? That's Chris and St Helens. No, it's not going well at all. Alan, hanging them upside down sounds good to me, whilst the blood's rushing to their brain might do some good. Liz in Bolton. Well, it might, or indeed might not. You also have to think of the lives of children they may have saved. The killing of infants has unfortunately always gone on. That's Gwyn in Congleton, which is, of course, absolutely true. It has always gone on. And the really bad thing is it will always go on. People are not perfect. Alan, you said Baby P mother was only 17 years old. She was actually 27. It was David Cameron that got that wrong. That's not a child. Well, no, it certainly isn't a child, but I suspect she has the mentality of such. And Joyce also corrects that. It was David Cameron that got it wrong in the House of Commons yesterday. That's a little disturbing, isn't it? When I get things wrong, dear God, who cares? But when the leader of the opposition or another senior figure speaking in the House of Commons gets it wrong, that is more than a little bit disturbing. It's getting on for 25 to 1 on BBC Radio Manchester. If you've something to say, that's fine. The number's 0161 228 2255. The text is 07786 206 951. And, of course, you can email radiomanchester@bbc.co.uk. It's dead easy. All you have to do, as I say, is pick up your phone and have your say. And, I mentioned earlier, we're hoping to bring you the press conference live that's taking place into the deaths of the 2 children who died in Manchester this morning. I don't want to prejudge what the detective superintendent is going to say at the time. Jeff in Lim. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Alan. You did on this child in Haringey. There's only one part not been discussed yet, and no hope I'm wrong, but I think it's something that needs discussing. And you've said yourself about the number of children in these sorts of areas that may be mistreated or the amount of violence against people or whatever. maybe it's the case, and I don't want to say it, but maybe it's the case that the social workers have become slightly sanitised in the effect what's happening to children in that area. And when they're dealing with such great numbers of children that maybe have similar, I mean, not the violence that's been shown there, for goodness sake, but may have similar injuries day after day, I think they've become slightly numbed to the situation. We're discussing the subject from an area of, let's say, a certain degree of normality, where these people that live in these areas, they look at life a lot different. We've got the case going through the courts now about the young child that was kidnapped by the uncle.
Yeah, we have to be careful there, because that's sub judice. We can't discuss that.
But there seems to be, there's another one in Manchester now, isn't there, from Cheetham Hill. 2 children there have been murdered.
We're certainly being killed.
Yeah, or murdered, well, whichever.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes the social workers, I'm not calling any of the social workers, like you say, they do a very, very difficult job. But maybe it's a case that these people have become sanitised and have become slightly removed from the case. And where we show shock, and I've no doubt they show shock when it happens, injuries are being reported every day on children.
Yes, they don't take part much in happy families, social workers.
No,
that's not what they do, yes. And yes, they get desensitised to the horror of something we would see and we think that is absolutely ghastly. They may well see as not. If you talk to prison officers and police officers, they'll tell you that the people they deal with are, frankly, not the best people on the planet by any stretch of the imagination. They deal with horrible people all the time. Prison officers particularly, and the police sometimes deal with people who are completely innocent. But they don't, well, I suppose they do in prisons as well, but not formally. But what we can do is we can try to find a way of understanding what these families, how they work, because I don't know that there's any other way, really. You've just got to find out how the families work so that you can in some way deal with that.
I think
can I just interrupt you for the moment, because I did say we were going to try and bring you live a press conference that's taking place in Manchester. Well, the person speaking right now is Detective Superintendent Sean Donnellan.
A little child, 2, and a baby of about 5 months old, both dead. Both children had one stab wound to their abdomen. We're still investigating the cause of death. A short time later, we arrested a 20-year-old female from around the corner, and today she was held under the Mental Health Act. She'll be held for 30 days pending an assessment.
When you say around the corner, were the boys in the house on their own then when she was out?
That's correct, yeah.
And had you been around the day before?
She'd actually been around that day as well, we believe.
But had you been called around the day before?
No, we hadn't. We were called earlier on in the day in response to another concern for welfare. Officers attended the scene, had a good look round to make sure what's happening, couldn't find anybody at the house, and we've referred the matter to the Independent Police Complaints Commission for them to look at it.
Can you say why the officers also called around today?
I'm not aware of that.
Can you just take us through the detail of that? You were called around earlier in the day.
Yeah.
Did the officers go into the house?
No, officers went to the house, knocked on the door and tried to find out what was going on. They got no reply. There's no sign of any life. They got no response. They went to the back of the house. They then carried on observation in the area to try and find the woman.
They went to the mother's house as well, is that correct?
Later on, yes. Yeah.
In the afternoon?
That's correct.
And it was while they were searching that they then got a call back to this house?
Yeah, that's right. And they went there, they forced it away, and then they found the tragedy, which you now know about.
Was the concern at that point for the children or for the woman?
The concern was for the family unit, but there was something going on that had alerted people to the fact that there appears to be quite an unpleasant situation arising. Officers went and found, as I've just disclosed.
Sean, what time did the police receive the call?
Sorry?
What time did your officers receive the first call?
The first call was received at about 1:15.
What time did your officers respond?
What time?
What time did the officers attend the house?
They were there very shortly afterwards. I've not got the exact time, in about 20 minutes. But of course, when they got there was no signs of anybody.
What time did the second?
Shortly before 5:45 p.m.
But you weren't still searching for her at that time?
We still had officers in the area, but we were uncertain exactly what we had. And again, this will be referred to the IPCC. They'll do a thorough investigation and find out exactly what happened.
What's your belief in terms of the timing when the children died through that afternoon?
It's impossible to second guess, really. There'll be 2 postmortems tonight for the 2 infants. We'll find out then a better idea of when these children died.
So it's possible that they were dead in the house.
No, when you first went round.
I really wouldn't like to speculate. It's too sensitive an area. I mean, you know, I'd ask you all to remember this is a tragedy. There's 2 children dead. It would appear to be victim of fatal attack. There's a mother in custody who's been detained on the mental health act. It's too early to speculate. It's too raw for the family.
Can you give some indication of what it was that was giving people cause for concern as to why they spoke?
Yeah, it was the state of the demeanour of the woman that caused people to telephone in. It's because officers had attended earlier, had got no response and not been able to find out what happened. We do that as a matter of course nowadays. Wherever there's any possibility that we could have learnt from it, we pass it to the IPCC for them to have a look at it. I should say they haven't made their mind up yet what they intend to do with it.
Do you believe there's anything that you can learn from this? Do you think you did enough?
Absolutely too soon to say. Absolutely too soon to say. As I say, we're still in white heat. It is a tragedy. The 2 children haven't yet been medically examined. It's far too soon to say. It's far too raw. We've got to find out what went wrong.
Did the dad live with them?
I'm sorry?
Did the boy's dad live with them?
No, the father lived. We found Dad last night. He's been supported by Great Manchester Police, trained family liaison officers. He's obviously he's obviously shocked. He obviously needs an awful lot of support.
You've spoken to those relatives today. Just talk us through how on earth they're dealing with this.
I think the only way I can describe it is as shell-shocked. You know, this is a loving family. This is a fairly close family. There's 2 young children who everybody adored, everybody doted on, and you know what the family had to say was that these were 2 beautiful innocent children called Romario, who was 2 years old, and Delanio, who'd only been born in July this year. We as a family are struggling to come to terms with the tragic events of yesterday afternoon. Cannot even begin to understand what happened. Everyone is completely devastated, and although we appreciated the interest of the press, we'd be very grateful if the family could be left in peace to begin the grieving process. We hope that wherever the boys are, wherever they've gone to, we're at peace.
Talk about
You can't say further than that. Let us leave the press conference. I don't think there's any more information going to come out just yet because, of course, the police have no more information at this stage. A recap of the facts. Well, the 2 children were killed, he says, probably as a result of an attack. We know that. We know that the neighbours, remember yesterday we were saying, where are the neighbours in all of this? Well, the neighbours here reported that the woman was in what we might describe as a distressed state. The police went round, found nothing untoward at the property, but didn't give up and kept looking for the child, and then the tragic discovery was made. A woman has now been taken into custody under the aegis of the Mental Health Act. More than that, I don't think we know, but we will, of course, keep abreast of the story as the day and the circumstances progress. It's getting on for 1:45 on BBC Radio Manchester. The news headlines. Anna Dawson.
As we've been hearing, 2 children killed at their home in Cheetham Hill have been named as 3-month-old Delanio and 2-year-old Romario Mullings-Sewell. It's reported the boys were stabbed to death, although that's not been confirmed. A 21-year-old woman who's being questioned on suspicion of murder has been sectioned under the Mental Health Act. Friends Provident won't comment on claims up to 280 jobs are going at the company in Manchester. The insurer and pension provider's closing one of its main buildings in the city and transferring staff and resources over the next year. And post-mortems have been carried out on a couple found dead at their home in Davyhulme earlier this week. The bodies of Ken and Eileen Martin were found on Monday. 76-year-old Eileen died from head injuries. 77-year-old Ken died from self-inflicted cuts and hanging. Manchester's weather, dull and rainy today, highs of 12 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Oh dear, I'm sorry, we're not going to get any traffic, are we? I've gone to them far too late because we were taking that press conference. What we will get, of course, is the sport.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Will Perry.
Cheers, Alan. Yeah, Stockport are confident that manager Jim Gannon will sign a new contract very shortly. Gannon turned down a new deal this week because he wanted a change to some of the terms. County Chief Executive Mark Maguire says fresh negotiations are a priority.
Well, unsurprisingly, the recent media has accelerated it up the agenda. Perhaps we thought we might be preparing for the match this weekend, but we are sitting down this afternoon, which will just be further discussions surrounding the contract, and I'm sure and confident that over the next week or two that things will be agreed. I mean, it seems not unusual for Stockport County when they're succeeding. I remember back in '97 when Dave Jones got us to the semi-final of the League Cup and was still negotiating his contract at that stage. So we're well ahead of that, but we're confident something will be sorted out.
Well, Stockport go to Millwall on Saturday. We have coverage in the all-new Manchester Sports with Jimmy Wagg from midday. The Metropolitan Police and the Football Association are investigating Chelsea's Didier Drogba after he threw a coin at Burnley fans during last night's League Cup defeat. Drogba scored the opening goal and also appeared to gesture at the away fans. He was given a yellow card for his actions and has since apologised. Meanwhile, the FA's Director of Football Development, Sir Trevor Brooking, has voiced his frustration at the state of youth football in England. Brooking believes the future of homegrown talent is bleak because of a lack of investment and an influx of foreign youngsters at the big clubs. There's reports on a bust-up between Hull's Marlon King, who's on loan from Wigan, and Dean Windass. King is said to have headbutted his teammate in a casino. Having only just been confirmed in the job, Manchester United's surprise visitor last week, Diego Maradona, is threatening to quit as coach of Argentina before the friendly against Scotland if he's not allowed to appoint Oscar Ruggeri as his number 2. But Maradona has reportedly been in dispute with the head of the Argentina FA, who doesn't approve of the choice. Matthew Tate will start for Sale in tomorrow night's Premiership match against Worcester. Tate was released by England yesterday. Carl Fearns makes his first Premiership start. Head coach Kingsley Jones says Worcester have become a bit of a bogey team for the Sharks.
Worcester have come to us previously, seem to be struggling in the league and catch us when we think we're a little bit better than what we are. But I don't think they'll get that this time, Worcester. We respect them. This team that's going to be playing on Friday respect Worcester, and we know it's going to be a real tough challenge. And of course, as you said, to have lost twice to them at home, there's no reason at all why anybody should be complacent about this playing against Worcester.
We'll have full commentary from Edgeley Park right here on BBC Radio Manchester from 7 o'clock tomorrow night. In Rugby League, having completed a 2-year drugs ban, former Wigan and Widnes back row forward David Allen is joining Oldham. The 23-year-old who tested positive for use of a recreational drug in 2006 has signed a 1-year deal for the Ruffians. In cricket, England have made 2 changes to their lineup for tomorrow's opening one-day international against India. Lancashire's Jimmy Anderson is recalled in place of Graham Swan. All-rounder Ravi Bopara comes in for Luke Wright. Stuart Broad is included after recovering from a sore knee, and captain Kevin Peterson has no concerns over Broad's fitness.
Absolutely perfect. He had an injection the other day. He's running on a treadmill next to me yesterday, running pretty fast. So it's all good. He's going to be an important player for us over the next 6 weeks.
In Ravi Bopara and I guess Luke Wright were vying for a spot in the side. And what's decided on your mind to go with Bopara?
Well, I just think Ravi's been out for a while now and he deserves his chance. I'm a big Ravi Bopara fan. It is very unfortunate for Lukey, but at the end of the day, it's the decision we've gone with.
Well, some other cricket news this afternoon. County champions Durham have agreed a deal for West Indies batsman Shivranand Pashandapul to return to the Riverside next season. The ICC Cricketer of the Year has already had 2 stints as Durham's overseas player. And finally, for now, former world heavyweight champion Evander Holyfield is seeking to become the oldest ever champion when he faces Russia's Nikolai Valuev for the WBA version of the title in Zurich next month. Holyfield now 46, last held a major heavyweight title back in 2000.
The next live action on the Northwest's biggest sports station.
Well, you heard from Kingsley Jones there. Sale Sharks face Worcester Warriors in the Premiership tomorrow night. We've got full commentary in the all-new Manchester Sports from 7 o'clock.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Well, as we were listening to the press conference of Greater Manchester Police, Detective Superintendent Sean Donnellan at the scene of the deaths of those 2 children in Cheetham Hill, Romario and Delaney Mullings-Sewell, you will have heard him say that the matter has been referred to the Independent Police Complaints Commission, the IPCC. What you probably couldn't hear was the question that was being put to him, and that was why. The implication being that there's something suspicious about the police's behaviour. Well, the IPCC is assessing the police response to the phone calls they received before the boys were killed. Greater Manchester Police referred its handling of the investigation to the IPCC in line with procedure. A spokesperson for the organisation said, "We've had a referral, we're carrying out an assessment to see whether or not to investigate." He said the police were contacted with expressions of concern about the welfare of the woman. They went round to the property at 2:50 yesterday afternoon. They searched the area because a neighbour said she saw the woman walking away with her children. The next call they got was that the children were dead. We'll be asking what the police were told, what the concerns were, what the officers did, and then decide whether there's anything there to take forward into an investigation. And a police spokesman outlined their response to the concern for welfare reports at the house in Kilmington Drive. And there's a repeat of the information I've just given you. He said, "We went round, there was no one there. We did checks with neighbours, area searches and the like. Whilst we were making these inquiries, we got a 999 call suggesting that the children were back in the house and dead." Now, what we don't know, and what the spokesperson wasn't prepared or able to confirm, was whether or not the first phone call made to the police was a 999 call. Remember the first one, arising their suspicions and suggesting that the woman was in a distressed state. The whole case, the whole story is, of course, absolutely horrible, and it comes a day after the Baby P conviction, as it were, or the conviction of the people involved with Baby P. It's not a comfortable child, is it? And not a comfortable time. Jeff in Lim, we were talking to him and interrupted for all of that. I'm sorry, Jeff, you were halfway through your throws. Do feel free to have your say.
No, it's no problem, Alan. With these social workers, maybe, I don't know, but maybe the answer, if they work in this field, say if they're working there for 6 months, I don't know a time schedule, for goodness sake, but maybe they should be removed and counselled. I know people say, oh, counselling is counselling again, but I think just to remove them and put questions to them and see actually the state of mind at the time and whether they need a rest from the job or maybe transferred to another area in London and fetch other people in that aren't be desensitised for these happenings. And maybe that's the answer. I honestly don't know. I don't know where the answer is, but I know the answer is not for another inquiry to put us back to where we was when the other children got killed, to do the opposite thing, and what's happened up in Newcastle and everything else. There seems to be inquiries, and we do something, and nothing seems to happen. And these people are left in post, and just to suffer with the same things over and over again. It just seems, it's incomprehensible. It's like you say about areas years ago. Everybody looked after the children, and they did. I mean, if you got a whack round the ear of someone else's mum or someone else's dad, you won't go and tell your dad, so you get another whack.
Well, indeed. But we look back at the halcyon days of that. I remember donkeys years ago, I read an autobiographical book of his childhood by Keith Waterhouse, big fan of Keith Waterhouse, and it was something like There Is a Happy Land, I think it was called. It was eventually made into a television programme. And there was a whole palaver there about a young child that had been taken, a young girl that had been taken from her home in Leeds and murdered in the Tusky fields, as the book called them, as Keith Waterhouse called them. I think it was just fields of long grass. And a body was found, the child's body was found and the like, and the whole community were involved. But these kind of things have been going on forever. We even have a word for it, infanticide. It's been going on for a very, very long time.
Well, yes, Alan, I agree with you. But at one time, you got it happened, and I know everyone's shocked at the moment over what's happened to this poor child in Haringey.
Yeah.
But it was a one-off. It made headlines. But now it's becoming commonplace. I mean, it's the police in areas where there's got a young child that's just got shot. For goodness sake, I mean, this wasn't happening years ago. I know.
Well, okay, that's a slightly different thing, though. This is, social workers aren't, well, they might be, but not for that reason. Social workers aren't the people we look to when a young lad is shot in the street or whatever, whether he was shot by a fellow gang member, an opposite gang member, or whether he was just stopped a random bullet, as it were. But you make a very good point about social workers becoming desensitised, and I would be interested to hear from a social worker, if any's got the time to talk to us, about what there is available to social workers to remind them about the humanity of their job. And that I honestly am not criticising them in that, but to remind them about, you know, they live at a very, very messy end of life.
I wouldn't like to do it.
No, I wouldn't like to do it either.
No chance.
I don't, you know, we as a society, don't we? We've got into this place now where we pass all the horrible things over to other people.
Yeah.
It's his fault. You know, it's the social worker's fault. It's the police's fault. We got to the situation here, the police, this case we've just been hearing about from Detective Superintendent Sean Donnellan. The police have got a phone call saying this woman's in a distressed state. They've gone to the house. They've found nothing. And then away they come. The next thing they get is a 999 call saying the children are dead. And they have to refer that to the Independent Police Complaints Commission simply to find out whether they've done anything wrong. And it's very hard to say what the hell else they could have done.
Yeah. I agree
But that's what we end up doing. So somebody's going to sit there now with the suit on and investigate all that and either say, well, you could have done this, you could have done that, you could have done this. There was nothing else they could have done. They couldn't break into the house. How would we feel if we came home and said, your neighbour said your mum wasn't looking very well, so we've come round and we've kicked the door down. That would go down awfully well, wouldn't it? Awfully well. And yes, it would have discovered the bodies earlier, perhaps, or it might well be because one of the women in the areas, one of the neighbours said she's gone out with the children, they kicked the door down, they find nothing. We don't know.
No, we don't.
But we pass it all over. We say, there you are, you go and do that, Mr. Police Officer, and get one thing wrong, and we'll be after you.
Yeah.
And the same
We
with the
become a
social services.
blame society.
Absolutely. And I say again, when are we going to take responsibility for that kid and those kids?
Couldn't agree with you more.
Good to talk to you, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks, Alan.
0161 228 2255. The death of baby P ought to be on all our consciences. I don't mean yours, I mean mine. The death of baby P ought to be on all our consciences. The death of those two children. I'm pleased, not at the death, I am pleased that a neighbour made a phone call to the police and said, look, somebody ought to, you know, please do something. Whether that phone call was 999 or not, I don't know. They've not told us yet. In fact, I suspect they don't know themselves at the moment. But we have got to start taking responsibility. I sound like I'm lecturing you. My sincere apologies. But we, you, me, everybody else, we've got to get back to taking responsibility for that which happens around us. Sure, I can't be wrong in that, can I?
Tomorrow night, BBC One is doing something different for children in need.
All I want is a room somewhere.
The cast of EastEnders swap Walford for the West End. There's a celebrity dance-off in Strictly Come Dancing, while the Bill sings the blues. With performances from Take That, McFly, Girls Aloud, Duffy and Will Young. Children in Need Night is tomorrow from 7 on BBC One.
Well, there you go. That's one way to look after children, is to get more money for children in difficult circumstances. What Children Need is about, and I'm not about to use the deaths of those children as a sort of rallying call for you to spend more money on children in need. Spend on children in need what you are going to spend or not spend, whatever. But I'd far sooner, I really would far sooner, that we all got involved in this world of ours. Dave in Woodley says, I don't think it's the social workers' fault. They were following a system which, and that is what failed the child. The outcome of this is everything tightening up, and I can see children being taken away for the slightest thing. That's Dave in Woodley. Well, what do you say? We talked a lot about it yesterday, and we find more tragedies on our news programmes today. It's a very distressing thing, without a doubt. Brian says, how can anyone with a belief in a God justify the worship of one who seemingly does nothing to prevent such a tragedy in the first place? Brian says, I, for one, want nothing to do with any God who took no action to save this baby's life or to prevent its suffering. Well, of course, the other way of looking at that is that God did intervene and took the baby's life to prevent it from further suffering. As somebody said on the programme yesterday, at least the child is now at peace. Shirley says, in this day and age, there's no reason for anyone to get pregnant unless they want to. Birth control is legally available, as is abortion. Many years ago, on asking a school friend who became an unmarried mother why she'd not taken her pill or precautions, she said it's against her religion. I replied, so is sex before marriage, according to your religion. She went on to have 3 children to 3 different fathers, which will give us psychological problems for the children as they grow older. No, I don't think it will, but it might.
Using the
bedroom for snoozing when you wish you were using it for more stimulating pursuits? Get some tantalising tips tonight from 10 with me, Sam Walker.
Tantalising tips. What a lovely alliteration. Fantastic. But then what a lovely lady delivering them, Allan Beswick. Yeah, 0161 228 2255.
95.1 FM,
DAB Digital Radio,
and the World Wide Web.
This is Manchester.
BBC Radio Manchester.
At 1 o'clock, it's emerged police had visited a house in Cheetham Hill just hours before a baby and a toddler were killed there. And more job losses, this time in Manchester.
Stockport are confident manager Jim Gannon will sign a new contract.
Well, it's a cloudy, grey afternoon with rain at times, but at least it's mild. Top temperatures 12 Celsius.
Good afternoon, I'm Anna Dawson. 2 children killed at their home in Cheetham Hill have been named as 5-month-old Delanio and 2-year-old Romario Mullings-Sewell. It's been confirmed they'd both suffered a single stab wound. A 21-year-old woman who's being questioned on suspicion of murder has also been sectioned under the Mental Health Act. Detective Superintendent Sean Donnellan has spoken to reporters within the past hour and describes what officers found at the property yesterday afternoon.
Inside, they discovered the bodies of 2 young children, a little child, 2, and a baby of about 5 months old, both dead. Both children had 1 stab wound to their abdomen. We're still investigating the cause of death. A short time later, we arrested a 20-year-old female from around the corner, and today she was held under the Mental Health Act.
Well, he says the boy's family is devastated.
The only way I can describe it is as shell-shocked. This is a loving family. This is a fairly close family. There's 2 young children who everybody adored, everybody doted on.
Because it's emerged police had been to the house following a call earlier in the day and couldn't find anyone at the property. The case has now been referred to the Independent Police Complaints Commission. In other news, Friends Provident won't comment on claims up to 280 jobs are going at the company in Manchester. The insurer and pension provider's closing one of its main buildings in the city and transferring staff and resources over the next year. Over 400 staff are employed at the 2 sites in Manchester. They were given the news yesterday. Meanwhile, BT says it'll do its best to avoid compulsory redundancies as it cuts 10,000 jobs, mainly among agency workers and subcontractors. It's already shed 4,000 posts and intends to get rid of another 6,000 by the end of next March. Post-mortems have been carried out on a couple found dead at their home in Davyhulme. The bodies of Ken and Eileen Martin were found on Monday. 76-year-old Eileen died as a result of head injuries. 77-year-old Ken died from self-inflicted cuts and hanging. Police say they're not looking for anyone else in connection with the deaths, and the case has now been passed on to the coroner. A prisoner's escaped while on an escorted visit in Manchester city centre. Stephen Edwards, who's serving a life sentence for attempted murder at Risley Jail in Cheshire, went missing yesterday afternoon. Police say he had access to money and may have tried to travel home to Wiltshire or South Wales, where he has friends and family. A cabinet minister's criticising the authorities over the death of baby P, saying there were up to 60 missed opportunities to save the life of the 17-month-old boy. The government's ordered an independent review into child protection services in the London borough of Haringey after the baby's mother and 2 men were convicted of causing or allowing his death. The leader of the Commons, Harriet Harman, told MPs it was a terribly tragic death in horrible circumstances and lessons had to be learnt.
There appear to have been up to 60 missed opportunities to save that baby's life. 60 occasions when the family and the baby was seen by social workers, by police, by health professionals. And that is, I think, why everybody finds this case so particularly tragic.
The mother of 2 brothers from Partington who were killed by drink-driving footballer Luke McCormick is launching a road safety campaign today. Ben and Aaron Peake were killed in a crash on the M6 in Cheshire last month. Road safety charity Break says car accidents kill or seriously injure 9 young people a day in the northwest. And Mum Amanda says drivers need to think of the consequences of their actions.
People have to start thinking of what they're going to do when they get in a car. It's just as bad as a knife and a gun. There's too many deaths by drivers in a car. They're a lethal weapon. People should think of what they're doing. Especially if you're going to have a skinful and then get in a car and drive. There's no doubt about you're going to kill someone.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Steve Wyatt.
Stockport are confident manager Jim Gannon will sign a new contract soon. Gannon turned down a new deal this week because he wanted to change some of the terms. County Chief Executive Mark Maguire has told BBC Radio Manchester that resolving the matter is now a priority. Metropolitan Police and the FA have confirmed they're investigating Chelsea's Didier Drogba. It follows an incident during last night's League Cup defeat by Burnley when he appeared to throw a coin at the visiting fans. The FA's Director of Football Development, Sir Trevor Brooking, has voiced his frustration at the state of youth football in England. He's blamed a lack of investment and an influx of foreign youngsters at the big clubs. Lancashire's James Anderson is back in the England cricket side for the first one-day international in India, and Matthew Tate will start for Sale in tomorrow night's Premiership match against Worcester.
BBC Radio Manchester satellite weather with Heather Stott.
It's a cloudy, grey afternoon, and there are going to be some outbreaks of rain from time to time. Most of it light and patchy, but there could be the odd heavy burst. We've got a freshening westerly wind, and you will notice that across the Pennines. It's cloudy and wet, and it's a bit windy, but the one thing is it's mild. Top temperatures today, 12 Celsius.
Allan Beswick with you on the phones. 0161 228 2255.
BBC Radio Manchester.
I've just got this on the news wires. Blue Square Premier side Weymouth have suspended manager John Hollins with immediate effect. I don't even know what sport that is. What's the Blue Square Premier? I have no idea. No, nor do I care. But there you are. Extraordinary. I've not a clue. How very bizarre. I'm sure somebody knows. I'm sure that news, there are people now sitting in Greater Manchester. Good Lord, have they? Exactly. 0161 228 2255. You don't have to talk about Baby P or other tragic matters today. You can talk about absolutely anything. You might want to talk about the 1,500 jobs that are going to be lost each day. You might want to talk about Prince Charles, who says his job is difficult, but he sees it as his duty. Oh, that's nice. Indeed. You might want to talk about George Osborne, Gideon as I prefer. George Osborne, who's facing the chop. You might want to talk about the fact that Harriet Harman thinks we should have more gay, ethnic minority and women people serving as members of Parliament. Of course you might. There again, you might want to consider Her Majesty's government's publicity stunt. Oh, yes. Her Majesty's government... I've come up with an absolutely cracking publicity stunt. Now, they've given away top quality golf balls. I'm looking it up. I can't trust myself. I can't trust myself to just read it out without smirking. But ministers claim £12,000 bill for free golf balls is... par for the course. Very good, yeah. Ministers admitted last night that they'd spent more than £12,000 on golf balls in the past 3 years. The top-of-the-range balls have been handed out to wealthy businessmen as part of efforts to promote Britain's trade links. The £12,030 bill emerged after a Tory MP ventured into the rough at his Surrey golf course and discovered a golf ball branded UK Trade and Investment. Humphrey Mallins, MP for Woking, asked the Department for Business Enterprise and Regulatory Reform, which funds UKTI, to reveal the full extent of its spending on golf balls. Your government, my government, our government, in the past 3 years, has given away £12,000 worth of golf balls to rich people who could afford to buy them themselves. Mr. Mallins, aforementioned, says it's a complete waste of taxpayers' money to think that the government has been spending over £4,000 a year on golf balls is quite ridiculous. How much is that a week? I've not got a calculator in here. £4,000 a year. Divide it by... That's 80 quid a week, isn't it? Isn't the retirement pension 100 quid a week? It's extraordinary. But there you are. It's good to know that they're busy. Well, what do the Department of Trade and Industry do if they're not giving away golf balls to people who've got more money than they know what to give her with? I'll tell you what they do. They're giving an awful lot of it away to others. Reference page 7 of the Manchester Evening News today, according to Kevin, apparently £40,000 for 100 hours work in the community is the going rate, along with a suspended jail sentence. But I could live with that £400 an hour. That's more than the BBC pay. Where do I sign up, he says. And on page 4 of the same issue is a report of an ex-MP having to repay £500,000 for illegally fiddling £760,000. That's a profit of £260,000. If when caught obtaining money illegally, you're forced to repay substantially less than you receive, where's the deterrent? Surely it should be the full amount plus a financial penalty. I read regularly of benefits cheats being caught and receiving nothing more than a telling off. So I'm not a bit surprised they do it. Who said crime doesn't pay? Well, Kevin, not you, obviously. That's a story from Kevin. Hi, Alan, says James in Hillgreave. Thinking of Baby P, like most of the country over the last few days, this saying came to mind. When one hears a caged bird sing, can you be sure it's not crying? Well, yes. And Professor Simon Thomas from the Liberal Arts Faculty of Catholic University in South Korea writes this via email. I think we all agree how terrible the situation is. However, we have to think about the responsibility of a wider society. What about the neighbours, friends and family? Many callers seem to have strong opinions, but do they actually pay attention to the kids around them? Secondly, the concept of referring it to someone higher than a social worker is ludicrous, since why would a medical doctor have any more idea than a social worker in this area, since social workers are trained very well and specialists at the point of initial contact? This is one case, and in the big scheme of things, we shouldn't disregard the hard work and dedication of social workers in an extremely difficult occupation. It's so easy to be critical and give the knee-jerk reaction, but I doubt that many of us could work under the same pressure and at a relatively low pay, whilst at the same time, don't forget this fact, achieving extremely good results. That's Professor Simon Thomas. Thank you very much indeed. 0161228 2255. If you wish to speak on the matter, you're more than welcome. What a society we are to pay people to have babies by the dozen. No wonder we don't see babies as something precious. I believe that some parents see kids as an income rather than as part of their family. It's a disgusting society in which we now live. No, it's not. No, it's not. We live in a fantastic society. An absolutely fantastic society. However, it could be better. And there are, from time to time, horrible, horrible things that happen. But because the very fact that we live in such a good society is what makes us think they're horrible. Back in Victorian times, instead of using contraception or instead of having a legitimate abortion, you waited till the kid was born, then you threw it in the river. Infanticide was common by comparison. We are much better than we were. We're not brilliant, we're not perfect. We're a damn sight better than we were.
Eamon and Diane helping Manchester's kids.
It's the most famous phone box in the whole of the galaxy.
And it's beaming down to Piccadilly Station.
The TARDIS will be there, Doctor Who, monsters and a host of celebrities.
And we want you there too.
Eamon and Diane.
For Children in Need.
Tomorrow at 6.
BBC Radio Manchester and BBC Children in Need. With your help, we can make it the best yet.
They're live from Manchester's Piccadilly Station tomorrow morning, Eamon and I. And we're raffling... Oh, I'm not... Can I tell them? Does anyone... There's an exciting thing you can take part in. Yeah. I'm not going any further than that. I'm not sticking my neck out. I don't care. I won't be bidding for it, but there you are. No, an exciting way of raising money for children in need tomorrow. Very, very exciting. Oh, yes. You'll have to go to sea. No, you won't have to go to sea. I don't want you joining the Navy. Well, you can join if you want, but that's not what I had in mind. When I said you'd have to go to sea, I meant SEE. Go and have a look, as it were. It's all taking place at Manchester's Piccadilly. I like Piccadilly. It's lovely with cheese. Alan in Bolton. Hiya, Alan.
Hello, Alan. Alan, what it is, we're getting these nuisance phone calls.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this guy's coming on and saying you won a holiday, you filled in an application form, you know, to take this on. We just say, well, just put the tickets in the post, or give them to an orphanage. Anyway, this guy came on and said, you know, you've won this holiday, and press 1 now. So I said, we're not pressing 1 now. He said, if you don't, he said, you'll be getting 10 calls a day. So what I'm saying is there any system that you can use to stop these phone calls?
There's a couple of things that it's harder to stop the one that's happening now, but you can take steps to diminish the numbers of future calls by registering with something called the Telephone Preference Society, TPS. And you register with them. Are you on the internet?
No.
Okay, well, you can get the number off directory inquiries, but you can register with them.
Yeah.
And then any firms in the UK, and this is where the fly is in the ointment, but any firms in the UK who want to make unsolicited phone calls have to, first of all, check the telephone preference register.
Yeah.
And if they then make a call to somebody who is on the telephone preference register, they can be fined a very serious amount of money.
Right. Oh, well,
so you can register with that. Now, what that can't do, because we can only apply the law for the UK, in the UK, but if you register with them, they have to check, I think the firms have to check once a month, and that will stop, or should stop, calls coming from within the UK.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah, that'd be great.
So that's the way of doing that. I can give you the phone number if you want it.
Yeah, please, yeah.
It's 0870
0870, yeah.
143 0707.
0707.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great, that, Alan.
And if you register with them, that will stop, or ought to stop, the ones from callers within the UK, but many of them, of course, are from outside of the UK.
Yeah, well, this latest guy, he sounded Nigerian.
Well, that might be the case. Now, that's a little harder.
Yeah.
But you can report the matter to your telephone service supplier.
Yeah.
And they can, there's all sorts of things they can do. One thing might be to just simply change your telephone number.
Right.
There are many inconveniences that come with that, but that would be a way of avoiding it. But you need to talk to the service provider to see what can be done to intervene. You can even get a telephone system, as it were, a telephone handset that will tell you the number of the person ringing.
Right.
And if you don't recognise the number, you don't pick it up.
Right. No, well, that's a valid point.
All right.
Yeah. Just one other thing, Alan.
Go on.
You know when he said about join the army and see the world?
Yeah.
That used to be a Navy saying that.
Indeed it did.
Yeah.
It was all of them. Well, there was a Belton T-shirt a few years ago, I think it was in the 60s, and it said, join the army, see the world, travel to interesting places, meet interesting people, and kill them.
Yeah.
That was the T-shirt. I think I had one at the time.
I know.
Have a good day, Alan.
Yeah.
Cheers,
okay,
mate.
Alan.
I hope that works. 01612282255. Tony in Bury says, I remember in the 1960s, whilst working for the CWS in Manchester, that's the Cooperative Wholesale Society, I think, in Manchester, Harold Wilson's government introduced the Selective Employment Tax, which required employers to pay a levy to the government for each member of staff it employed. This is at the time when there were thousands of shops, emporia and various other departments and factories owned and managed by the CWS. But as far as I remember, in spite of a huge outcry from the company, there were no enforced redundancies in the movement. This, alas, was not the case as regards thousands of other companies, and mass unemployment throughout the various industries ensued. I don't think the tax bill remained in force very long and was consequently rescinded. Still, at least the government held their hands up, sadly lacking in today's lot. Well, I don't know, governments do change their mind, even this one, which we might say is as arrogant as any other, but even this one with the... You remember the 10 pence in the pound tax fiasco? They changed their mind. Now, I still maintain that they didn't reverse entirely the position they created, but they did at least change their mind. Margaret Thatcher's government changed her mind over poll tax. Poll tax instead turned into council tax. So things do change. Governments do listen. It's just that often, even with large majorities and small majorities, often they think they've got it right. Brilliant society? Yeah, right. Is that why you're considering retiring to France? That's Stephen. No, that's not why I'm considering retiring to France. Should I retire, and eventually I'll be made to retire, I suppose, I do intend to move to France, but not to avoid British society, no. To avoid British weather, yes. It may well be, perfectly possible, that the weather will arrive before I leave, the way things are going with global warming, in which case I won't be going. But no, it's not to get away from the UK, but to get away from the UK's weather. I like the sunshine. I like waking up in the morning and seeing the wonderful light that you get in the Mediterranean, rather than the rather dull light that we get in this country. It's just the joy of all that light. And the food's slightly different too, but hey, we don't move for dinner. We bring dinner to us, don't we? Just gone 1:20 on BBC Radio Manchester. News headlines, Anna Dawson.
A 21-year-old woman who's being questioned on suspicion of murder after 2 boys were found dead at a house in Cheetham Hill has been sectioned under the Mental Health Act. It's been confirmed 3-month-old Delanio and 2-year-old Romario Mullings Sewell had suffered a single stab wound each. Friends Provident won't comment on claims up to 280 jobs are going at the company in Manchester. The insurer and pensions providers closing one of its main buildings in the city and transferring staff and resources over the next year. And a prisoner's escaped while on an escorted visit in Manchester city centre. Stephen Edwards, who's serving a life sentence for attempted murder at Risley Prison in Cheshire, went missing yesterday afternoon. Manchester's weather dull and rainy, highs of 12 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
Let's take a look firstly to train services. There's an emergency engineering works taking place at Flowery Field. That's affecting Northern Rail services. There's a replacement bus in operation between Manchester, Piccadilly and Hadfield for the time being. Hopefully services should be back to normal by around about 3 o'clock this afternoon. Still fairly foggy on the top, so on the M62 around junction 22 at Rushworth Moor. There's some quite heavy rain as well around that area, so please do take care. Despite that, traffic flow seems to be maintaining a nice steady speed. But don't forget, if you can update me further, call in on the travel line. The number 0161 244 4951. I'm Carol Banks.
BBC Radio Manchester.
With 2020 traffic through until midnight.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Did you hear that story in the headlines about the escaped prisoner who was on an escorted visit, I don't know where to, an escorted visit in Manchester? And when we got the, you just get the headlines at 20 past, but in the 1 o'clock news, I think it was, Anna said that the police had said, or the authorities had said, that he escaped and, quote, the prisoner had access to money. I have no idea what that means. I know what it means. It means he could get his hands on some brass. I know that bit. What does that mean? He had access to money. Did he have a cash card? Did he have a little pot stashed away somewhere? Well, I can't see either of those being immediately available to a serving prisoner at Risley, can you? So I wonder what it was. Did they say, well, OK, we'll take you out, you can get a new suit, ready for your discharge or whatever? No idea. He had access to money. Oh, how fascinating. If only we all did have access to money, that is. But no, we don't. Well, Not many of us, anyway. Certainly not me. And certainly not this person who sent me an email and wishes to remain anonymous. And frankly, I can't say I blame the person. Upon taking retirement, I was advised to invest in a low-risk personal investment plan. Today, I received my yearly statement. I've lost £55,000. Thank God I didn't put it in a high-risk one. What? £55,000. Now, I don't know what that is as a proportion of this individual's money. It might be all of it. It might be a tenth of it. But I'd be a lot more cross than this person sounds if an investment plan I'd been advised to take out lost £55,000. That is scary. So, says Kevin, if global warming arrives early, you won't emigrate. That's reason enough for me to reduce my carbon footprint. When I find out what it means. Yeah, I don't really know what that means. Does anybody know? They're always giving us this, aren't they? We are absolutely hammered every day by jargon. And frankly, I've no idea what half of it means. What is one's carbon footprint? No, I don't know. Perhaps some green will come on and tell me. But then that'd be using the phone. So maybe I'll go on the roof and see if there's a wigwam down the street with a bloke stood next to it waving flags about. No, how cruel to the Greens. But why not? What is a carbon footprint? But it doesn't mean anything, does it? There's all these terms that are absolutely meaningless, that are meant to make us take some course of action. You tell us the government is spending £12,000 on golf balls. What you've failed to tell us is that most of them would have gone to Tories. Not too many socialists playing at Royal Sunningdale. Oh, I don't know. I mean, I suppose. I suppose if we're talking about big business, then yeah, I guess a lot of people in big business are Tories. Oh, I see. Right, thank you. Now I know what the carbon footprint is. It's when you spill the ashes that you're sweeping from the fireplace, you see, and then you step in the ashes, so you've got soot on your foot. That's a little poem, isn't it? You've got soot on your foot, and then you make a mark on the carpet. That is your carbon footprint. Well, that's why Hoover was born. To stop us worrying about that. That's what he was for. We got Hoover, and we don't have to worry about carbon footprints anymore. Mind you, Hoovers are not good at soot. They suck it up, but then your Hoover's knackered. or your vacuum cleaner's knackered because the filter's stuffed full of soot, because it's dead fine. I know this only too well. I've paid the high price of this. You don't care. I don't blame you. I don't know whether to mention this, because I don't want to be getting involved in God-botherer stuff. No, well, I don't. But in the Manchester Evening News today, and you might have seen it on the telly last night as well, but in the Manchester Evening News today, there's a story. I quite like it. There's a story about a work of art. We're always having stories about works of art. They're good fun. I like works of art. But this one, the late George Best, is portrayed in Michael Brown's latest work, which is based on the Transfiguration by Raphael, the Renaissance artist Raphael. And it's a painting which depicts George Best as Jesus. But it says here that he's surrounded by topless groupies. But frankly, I can't see the topless groupies. All I can see is George Best with his hands in the air in that Jesus-like pose, I suppose. And then two bearded blokes, one either side. I suspect they're Abraham and Noah, but I can't be sure because they've not got names on. And there is one hand sticking up with a bunch of grapes hanging in it, so I have to presume that if we got a bigger picture in the Evening News, then we'd have the rest of the arm and a shoulder and a head and some upper decker flopper stoppers and the rest of the body. I don't know. Topless beauty is what it says, so there you are. Anyway, Michael Brown has painted this. And he's made his name with a series of paintings featuring Premier League stars, apparently. Previous works have shown Eric Cantona as a Roman emperor, Rio Ferdinand and Wayne Rooney standing shoulder to shoulder with Winston Churchill. But his latest creation has the 70s United star best, famous for his boozing and womanising, as a Christ-like figure standing outside the gates of heaven. Well, again, I see no gates. There's some clouds, which may be gates in heaven. I don't know. I'm not big on heaven. I will be one day, but not yet. but I can't see what the fuss is about. I mean, he's got a beard. Auntie George Best, he was bearded for a lot of his life. He had long hair, so that's two things like Jesus, wasn't it? And he liked to drink. Well, Jesus, he didn't change the wine into water, you know. He did it the other way around, so he liked to drink. And he cavorted. Yeah. He cavorted with ladies of ill repute. That Mary Magdalene, everybody said she was a hooker. So, it's perfect. Absolutely perfect. He's got exactly right. I don't see what the fuss is about, but there you are. It's in. Oh, and lollipop ladies are getting a pay rise, so that's good news, isn't it? They do a good job, you know. They do. I don't understand that, so I won't read it. No, somebody just sent me something I don't understand. I get a lot of things I don't understand. It's the nature of the job. The N-word has appeared. Well, no, it hasn't. It hasn't appeared. It's been the N, and then ... It's in the Sun, or more accurately, not in the Sun, today. And it's a story about education. Now, there was all the trouble in the last few days because Gary Glitter, or one of Gary Glitter's songs, was featured in a what we might call the syllabus for a music course in a school. And, of course, some people were outraged that a convicted paedophile, the music of a convicted paedophile was being used in a music lesson. And I don't understand the fuss, really. I have a bit of trouble with the fuss. Not about convicted paedophiles. They, frankly, deserve a lot worse than they sometimes get, perhaps. But it's just his music. It's just his music. An awful lot of musicians and artists didn't and don't live lifestyles of which you and I might approve. But that doesn't diminish their music. I remember the state of Israel would not allow the music of Wagner to be played for half a century. And I couldn't see the sense in that. I know that Wagner was, was a big love, if you like, a musical love of Adolf Hitler. And the man himself, the composer himself, was indeed a Nazi. But that's no reason to not like his music, is it? No reason at all. That's like not liking the music of the Singing Nun because you're an atheist. It's daft. We ought surely not to be so immature that we attribute the music or the art or even the literature of the creator. No, not him, not the big creator, the creator of the work. We attribute the emotions of the artiste to the work that the artist does. The work stands alone, doesn't it? I don't understand. Anyway, there's another one in today. It's slightly different, but it's in the same vein. An examination board has sparked fury by choosing a Kanye West song. Kanye West is, I presume, a rapper. Yeah, he's a rapper. And one of the songs in this GCSE music course... Now, we have to discuss whether rapping is music or whether it's just poetry. I don't know. But we can't condemn it for that. But included in this course is the 2005 rap hit Gold Digger. Gold Digger. And the essence of the song is that some women are only after the cash of rich men. Now, I don't know about you, but frankly, it's hard to argue, isn't it? Some women are only after the cash of rich men. And come to think of it, some men are only after the cash of rich women. That's the way the world has been, and it isn't going to change. So that's not really what they're grumpy about. What they're grumpy about is one line one word in that line. But she ain't messing with no broke N-word, plural. She steal me money. Well, let's not dwell on the grammar. It's rap. I don't think they get marks for grammar in rap, and nor should they. But this is a singer, a rap singer, using the forbidden word, and I don't use it myself, but using the forbidden N-word. But again, it's in the song. Should we not choose songs just because they've got a word in them that we don't like? What are we doing? What are we doing? I wouldn't want to use that word, and quite a lot of others as well. I wouldn't want to use that word, but are we guilty here of starting to sanitise the whole of education and take out the bits that we don't like and just say, well, we're not going to use that song? I appreciate they could use some other song, and why the hell they're using any rap songs is beyond me, but that's because I don't like it. The former Ofsted superhead, Dr. Stuart Newton, last night slammed the assessment and qualifications alike. This is how they speak in The Sun. Slammed the examiners behind the decision on the 2010 GCSE music syllabus, because the syllabus has within it this song, and within this song is that word, the N-word. I don't think we should use that word in normal parlance. I don't think we should use it to describe any group of people. I don't think we should celebrate the word in any way, shape or form. But should we not have it at all? Should the word not exist? Well, we can't do that, so it does exist. So I don't understand where the problem lies.
Lunchtimes belong to Beswick.
Allan Beswick.
BBC Radio Manchester. Find the whole thing balmy. Ian in Knutsford said, my mate knew someone who was getting nuisance calls. She was advised to blow a whistle down the phone. She did. They rang again and blew one back. Very good. Very, very good. I've heard some of that so-called rap music, and as far as I'm concerned, says Kevin, there's a C missing. Rapk. I don't understand that. Or ARCP. Or ACRP. I don't know what you mean. I really don't. Honestly. 161-228-2255. I want to read you a story. Once upon a time... No, not that kind of a story. This comes from Anne. And she's just making comments. She's not looking for help or advice or whatever. She's just making comment. Listen to this for a tale. Yesterday, I visited a restaurant, a pub restaurant, in South Manchester. I'm not going to say any more than that. To have lunch with my daughter and her 4 children, along with my parents, who were in their 70s. My father went to order the food, taking one of the children, 6 years of old, with him, and on the way back to the table, the child tripped and fell against a high chair. My daughter could see straight away it was a very nasty cut. In fact, there was a hole between her lip and her chin, and we had to leave straight away. Not one member of staff at the restaurant came to help, but the manager did supply some ice when my daughter asked for it. He was more intent on getting his accident form filled in, which my parents attended to as my daughter and myself set about collecting all our belongings and getting the children into the cars. We cancelled our food order within 2 minutes of ordering it. I set off home with the boys as my daughter went to hospital with my parents and the 6-year-old girl. The hospital put some stitches in and say it may not heal, and that she may have to be referred to Pendlebury Hospital for plastic surgery. We've to take her back tomorrow. When everyone was back home, my daughter phoned the pub restaurant and asked for a refund for me father, who'd paid for the food with his credit card. She was told it's not company policy to refund monies for ordered food. She explained that the order was cancelled straight away as the incident took place on the way back to the table after placing it. She was then put through to the manager, who not once asked how my granddaughter was, but was more worried about saying that he had had to waste food. We've visited this establishment many times with the children. We normally have to wait about 20 minutes for our food. We don't believe that the kitchen staff had prepared chips, especially for us, or managed to bake pies within 2 minutes. The whole experience has left a sour taste with us. My father's right into the head office, but there you are. What a tale. What a tale. Kid falls over in restaurant. They cancel the order because they've got to rush the kid to hospital. And the bloke, the management of the establishment, take the money anyway. No, we've had to waste food. You liars! You complete and utter liars. You haven't had to waste food, except you're wasting it by letting your half-wit cooks get hold of it. That probably ruins it. You didn't waste food. The order doesn't start straight away. They hadn't even opened the freezer door then. They hadn't even got to the ping of the microwave. What a lying, selfish, vile rat. Well, that's service these days, isn't it? 0161 228 2255. Look, the lady told me the story. I told you. And I think the manager is a disgrace to his industry. But it's an industry that's full of them. 20 to 2 on BBC Radio Manchester. News headlines with Jessica Robbins.
A 21-year-old woman's been sectioned under the Mental Health Act following the deaths of her 2-year-old son and her 3-month-old baby boy. Officers found the bodies at her home in North Manchester yesterday. Friends Provident won't comment on claims up to 280 jobs are going at the company in Manchester. The insurer and pension provider is closing one of its main buildings in the city and transferring staff and resources over the next year. And post-mortems have been carried out on a couple found dead at their home in Davyhulme last weekend. 76-year-old Eileen Martin died as a result of head injuries. Her 77-year-old husband Ken died from self-inflicted cuts and hanging. Manchester's weather dull and rainy, highs of 12 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester 2020 traffic.
If you're using the M6 northbound, there's been a collision at junction 25 at Bryn, which has closed a lane on the exit slip. Matrix signs are set to 50 miles per hour, but despite that, traffic's actually coping quite well on the main carriageway. Take care if you're heading a bit further north of that area, though. I'm afraid visibility is reduced from junction 27 Standish on through towards junction 33 Galgate. That area really affected by poor weather conditions at the minute. Again, very foggy, I should say, on the M62 around Rushworth Moor at junction 22. Although traffic does seem to be coping fairly well, there's an awful lot of rain around as well, which means surface spray on the carriageway. Don't forget, if you can update me further, call in 0161 244 4951. I'm Carla Banks.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Steve Wilde.
Hello, very good afternoon to you. Stockport, a confident manager Jim Gannon will sign a new contract soon. Gannon turned down a new deal this week because he wanted to change some of the terms. County Chief Executive Mark Maguire has told us resolving the matter is now a priority.
Well, unsurprisingly, the recent media has accelerated it up the agenda. Perhaps we thought we might be preparing for the match this weekend, but we are sitting down this afternoon, which will just be further discussions surrounding the contract, and I'm sure and confident that over the next week or two that things will be agreed. I mean, it seems not unusual for Stockport County when they're succeeding. I remember back in '97 when Dave Jones got us to the semi-final of the League Cup and was still negotiating his contract at that stage. So we're well ahead of that, but we're confident something will be sorted out.
The Metropolitan Police and the Football Association have confirmed they're investigating Chelsea's Didier Drogba. It follows an incident during last night's League Cup defeat by Burnley when he appeared to throw a coin at the visiting fans. Drogba was shown a yellow card for the offence and has since apologised. The FA's Director of Football Development, Sir Trevor Brooking, has voiced his frustration at the state of youth football in England. Brooking believes the future of homegrown talent is bleak because of a lack of investment in homegrown talent and too much reliance on foreign players. Brooking also feels he hasn't been able to do his job as a result.
No. I wanted to put my FA investment in the 5-11 and 11-16. Everyone really is sort of just treading water a little bit, I think, and because we've got more money in the game than ever before, but I don't see in 10 years' time us having capitalised on that.
The former Manchester United striker Ruud van Nistelrooy is unlikely to play for Real Madrid again this season. He's undergone surgery on a knee injury, similar to the one that delayed his move from PSV Eindhoven to Old Trafford in 2000. Lancashire's James Anderson is back in the England side for the first one-day international in India. Anderson replaces Graham Swan as one of two changes, with all-rounder Ravi Bopara coming in for Luke Wright. Stuart Broad passed a fitness test this morning. Matthew Tate will start for Sale in tomorrow night's Premiership match against Worcester. Tate was released by England yesterday. Carl Ferns makes his first Premiership start. Head coach Kingsley Jones says Worcester have become something of a bogey team for the Sharks.
Worcester have come to us previously, seem to be struggling in the league and catch us when we think we're a little bit better than what we are. But I don't think they'll get that this time, Worcester. We respect them. This team that's going to be playing on Friday respect Worcester, and we know it's going to be a real tough challenge. And of course, as you said, to have lost twice to them at home, there's no reason at all why anybody should be complacent about this playing against Worcester.
Having completed a 2-year drugs ban, the former Wigan and Widnes back row forward David Allen is joining Oldham. The 23-year-old who tested positive for the use of a recreational drug in 2006 has signed a 1-year deal for the Ruffians.
The next live action on the Northwest's biggest sports station.
It's that rugby union match-up between Sale and Worcester. Join us for the all-new Manchester Sports, live tomorrow night from 7 o'clock.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Joyce in Oldham. Hi, Joyce.
Hi, Alan.
What have you got?
Well, today you've been discussing about people getting nuisance calls.
Yes.
Yeah, well, yesterday, between 5:15 and 8:30, I had 7.
Really?
Yes.
Good Lord.
Some of them, when I picked the phone up, they didn't answer, and then another time, this guy, when he asked if it was me, so I asked who was calling, and, he said it was Global Seminar or Investigation or something like that, so I never heard of you. So I put the phone down.
Quite right, too.
And then, I had to pick the phone up in case it was someone genuine.
Yeah.
So then I got in touch with the nuisance department of BT, and they said that if they're coming in from abroad, then they can't do anything to block it. So I said, well, where are they getting your details? I said, I don't know anyone abroad. And they were saying, these, junk mail places pass people's details on.
They do, yes.
Which I don't think is right.
No, it isn't. Well, it's correct, but it's certainly... It ought not to be permitted, but it is.
But, they're doing it without our agreement.
Yes, they are. People sell their lists, as it were, to other organisations. You'll notice when you apply for anything on the internet, they say, do you mind if we pass your details on? And I always say, yes, I do mind, and don't pass them on.
But I've no access to
But it's not just there, it's done in all sorts of fora. If you go into, if you go into a carpet shop and you make some enquiries and they take your details, there's nothing legitimately stopping that carpet shop from compiling a list of all those enquiries and providing it, say, to furniture shops. Because if you get new carpets, you might want a settee as well. And so you'll then get an unsolicited call from a furniture shop. Yeah. I'll tell you a story. I won't tell you the name of the company because it's not fair on them, but I've bought my last 4 motor cars, probably 5, and my wife's 2 cars over the years. That's 6 motor cars, possibly 7, from the same firm for years, donkey's years. And we bought those cars from the same firm. And I'll never buy one from the firm again. And I've told them, because they rang me about a month ago and said, we've got some great deals on such and such a car. And I said, I don't deal with companies that make unsolicited calls. You've just lost a customer of some years.
Yeah.
Because it's the only way. The only reason these firms make unsolicited calls is because it sometimes works.
But, it's sort of an underhanded way, isn't it? They're going behind your back and selling you details without any permission from you.
Yeah, but they always did. It's not new. It's just that the communication process that we've got is new.
It's been going on for such a long time, though, now, hasn't it?
It has. It's been going on since we got shops. It's been going on since we got transactions. That's the way it is. And it stinks. But I don't know any way out of it. But it's not new. It's not a new experience at all.
No. But about a couple of months ago, we heard from the media that the government was supposed to be clamping down on these marketing calls, but they don't seem to have got anywhere.
Well, I say to you what I said earlier, and that is telephone the telephone preference service and get your name on there, because any firm that makes, any firm in the UK, they can't operate outside the UK, but any firm in the UK that by way of business makes unsolicited calls has to check their register regularly. And they're not allowed to make unsolicited calls to people who are on that register. So get registered with that, and it will diminish. It won't remove it, it will diminish it.
Oh, that's certainly worth my while doing.
All right, I should do it if I were you.
I will.
The same applies to if you get lots of unsolicited mail. I'm not that bothered about unsolicited mail, because you just chuck it in the ash can, don't you? You just get rid of it, or recycle it, or whatever. But unsolicited calls can be an absolute pain. One a year is not so bad, but when you start getting 7 in 2 hours, dear God, it's just... But it must work. That's the odd thing. It must work. There must be people. I've never understood this. There must be people who, when the phone rings at home and they answer it and the firm says, we're a double glazing company, they think, oh, I was just thinking of getting some double glazing. Come round with a spanner. No! The answer to that is, oh, I was thinking of double glazing, but I'm not buying off you, you filthy pig. Now get off me phone. I'll never want to hear from you again. No! Never, 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 never buy off anyone that approaches you rather than you approach them. Whatever it is, whether they're knocking at the door, ringing you up, sending you emails, if they're offering you, even if you want it, don't get it. Let's put these rats out of business.
John Thompson, he knows what he means.
Amy Winehouse, little bit pub singer. It's you. I mean, Otis. Trevor. Top end pub singer. It's you. Trevor. For a keyboard. Exactly.
John Thompson, he knows what he means.
Can you do Brucey for me on this? Say, Bruno, what did you think of...
I'll give it a go. Bruno, what did you think of the last performance?
There's still a problem with the feet. Watching it, it was like a pot noodle, but dry with no hot water. I didn't know if it was a pot noodle or Bombay mix.
John Thompson's take on the world.
I love him. He's reinvented cool.
Saturday from 11 on BBC Radio Manchester.
He is indeed talking. 0161 228 2255. Something to say? That's good. We'd love to hear it. Oh, good Lord, yes. We would. Well, we do. Oh, yeah, somebody else has won this. I took your advice when I was contacted by the Spanish lottery. I told them to get stuffed and gave the money to charity. I've just received a note from a charity thanking me for my £5 million donation. Well, it doesn't work every time, obviously. Thank you for that. You've been a great help. I read an email about a customer in a restaurant. Chris says, regarding the story of the little girl in the restaurant, could I suggest that they mention that they're considering a claim for negligence? I bet that'll concentrate their attention. Just a thought, he says. Well, it does certainly concentrate their attention, would it not? That would put a fly in their particular lump of ointment. And George in Bolton, I've no doubt whatsoever as to why the UK is more violent than the rest of Europe. Religion in England has been conveniently swept away. In Europe, which is mainly Roman Catholic, the majority are serious about life and how precious we are. Now in England, it's no God, no fear. These young are spiritually lost. They do not know contentment in God's way of life. Some, like yourself, can manage without a God. Many cannot. In the UK, Jews, Muslims, Hindus and others also have a peaceful way of life in their family. I've lived in Europe. I'm an older person. I speak with wisdom and knowledge. I've no argument with the unbelievers. It's their choice. But generally, you reap what you sow. Although the world is at war, I am at peace. That's George in Bolton. Is there a connection? George clearly thinks there is. Is there a connection between the reduction of, if you like, religion, practicing religion in society and the increased lawlessness of our society? In other words, does religion help us to be better citizens? Well, I don't know whether it's the religion that does it, but that meeting with people, I mean, going to church or synagogue or mosque or whatever on a regular basis, it's evidence to you and to them that you're part of a wider thing. Now, you're doing it for religion, but it's just the same as going to the British Legion in a way, or going to the pub. You're acknowledging that we're a collective, that we live on this society, this world, sharing the planet with others, sharing our little bit of Manchester with others. So you recognise that. So I can certainly acknowledge without hesitation that there's some merit in that. If it's driven by God or driven by the Women's Institute, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The thing that makes our world a better place, surely, is the association of others, being together, working together, living together, and all of that. I'm sure it's got something to offer. Now, if that reason for, or if that process of acknowledging the community, the togetherness, is a religion, then okay, I've no problem with that, none whatsoever. So, yeah, I agree with you to a certain extent. I wouldn't want to go mad. And listen to this. Somebody said, why are you emigrating if England's such a wonderful place? And I said, the weather. Listen to this. It's just come in. It's completely of no interest to most people. But listen to this. Bad weather has forced organisers to cancel Britain's biggest annual horse driving trials and country fair more than 8 months before it was due to take place. Every summer, as many as 50,000 spectators from all over Greater Manchester and beyond attend the Lowther Show in Cumbria, whose patron is the Duke of Edinburgh. But just in case you were putting it in your diary, the 2009 event has already been called off after persistent rain swamped the showground near Penrith in recent months, making it impossible for the Grade 2 listed parkland to host the show next August. It's off. Rain stopped play, but it's not due to start for another 8 months, sorry. So there you are. That's why I'll eventually leave, because the weather's a damn sight better elsewhere. However, having said that, I got this. It's a ricochet. I got this from Leslie in the south of France. She says, Alan, we're not far from Perpignan. We're not sure where you'd like to stay, but today it's flipping freezing, wet and windy. We retired for the same reason as you want to, the weather, and have not been disappointed. Except today, apparently. But that's not the driest part of France, is it? Perpignan. I mean, for a start, it's up in the hills. And what's more, it's that bit of France that gets all the rain. It's the food belt of France, isn't it? Oh, you don't want to be lurking round there. No. Get a bit further over. Get in the dry Brits, for crying out loud. Are you balmy? Of course you're not. And an endorsement for the telephone preference service. We like that. We like it when a plan comes together, as they say. But an endorsement, and it is this. Alan, the telephone preference service is very good at reducing UK-based calls, but the point of my call is caller ID. This now appears to be free as part of a package from BT. This means you can see the calling telephone number before you answer. That, combined with an answering machine and the discipline to let the machine do its job, I'm rarely troubled by a call. I am registered with the TPS, and it's great fun should I answer a call. I used to, occasionally, before we got caller ID, and I mentioned we're registered with the TPS and start inquiring of their licence for calling. Yeah, what the TPS cannot stop is market research calls. This has led to an interesting type of call that appears superficially to be market research, but strangely leads to an opportunity to make a purchase. Unsurprisingly, there's a term for this. It's called sugging. What does one say? Sugging? How absolutely fabulous. Sugging. So Christians are content and peaceful, are they? Says another Paul, this one from Bolton. That'll be just like the monks battling each other in Jerusalem, then. Well, yes, you can always... It's cruel. You can always find people of faith who are fighting one another, but in the end, the overwhelming thing is that it's all right. Religion makes a beneficial contribution to our society. Ian in Stockport. We've got a new air ambulance in the region based at the city airport in Barton, which is funded by charitable donations. And although there's no government or council support, I assume they've asked for help and been refused. Why does this situation continue, even though there's an obvious need in the community? Is our country so poor that we can't adequately finance a life-saving facility for people when they're most vulnerable? Well, Ian, I think it's a bit like the lifeboat service. The lifeboat service is funded entirely from voluntary contributions. And the lifeboat service don't want it to be any other way. And I can't speak for the airport or for the air ambulance, but I think the air ambulance is the same. I think they want it to be funded by charitable donation, because that way they retain the freedom to operate it in whatever way they think fit, within the confines of the law and service and all the rest of it, but they don't have to fill in an awful lot of forms to government and civil servants and the like. So I think they want it that way. If I'm wrong, tell me tomorrow. I'll see you then. Ta-ra now.
It's about you and the news. Everything you need to know before you get home. Manchester.